Welcome back to the Football Forecast. I am joined by Rob and Kate, and we have a very, very, very tasty debate here because it's basically the only thing people talk about now is Gareth Southgate's relationship with Trent Alexander-Arnold. However, there are many other right-backs in the league that are very good as well. So outside of England, we're going to look at the best right-back in the league, and we'll start with Trent because...
Nice.
Well, how do you feel about him? There's mixed feelings everywhere.
I feel good. I feel, as we're sitting here as well, like this is a sort of conversation that makes Gary Neville very happy, right? Because no one wants to grow up to be Gary Neville. But as it turns out, now they really, really do. Trent Alexander-Arnold would still be my pick for... Even as I'm saying this, I'm doubting myself again. But no, he would, for best right back in the league, because it kind of depends what you want, right? The point about him is he's exciting. He can pick a pass so beautifully. He can make those crosses, place free kicks. He can do all the attacking stuff you want to see. Yeah, it's true. I mean, we've got some stats about what he can do in terms of defending. So big chances created, he's made 2. Key passes per 90, 2.2. So that feeds into that. And then tackles, interceptions per 90, 2.1. So, you know, his strengths, that doesn't actually express how much more his strengths are on the kind of attacking side. But if you love an attacking right back, then he's your boy.
It's so important these days for fullbacks to be able to attack. And that's why people, or Trent in particular, has become such a talking point. I think, you mentioned Gary Neville there. If Trent was playing when Gary Neville was playing, you wouldn't see anything like the same player. Gary Neville's job was to defend and pass the ball to David Beckham to cross it to Dwight York and head it in the net.
Yeah.
These days, the fullbacks have to be able to get forward in their own right. They have to be able to assist, create chances. It's a really key position these days, which obviously, no one wants to grow up being a right back because at the time it was the worst player on the pitch gets put a right back and it's not the same anymore. If Trent can offer that, it's a massive plus. It's whether as a manager you can cope with his obvious defensive deficiencies.
Yeah. Klopp
apparently can. Southgate apparently can't.
Southgate is, as we know, a bit more conservative, isn't he? A
Yeah.
bit more cautious in these things. But if we were talking about England, for me, you'd say, we look good going forwards and we should concentrate on that.
I think my thing with Trent is, yes, he's a system player, but I think if you've got a player who's essentially Kevin De Bruyne at right back, you kind of go find a way to fit him in, which is where when the debate on best right back in the league comes in, I go, I'd probably build a team to facilitate him because he has so much creativity, not just from the right, he tucks inside. And a lot of the time you see him pick the ball up in narrow areas where people can't pick him up. And he's playing the pass before the pass that results in the goal. I think the chances created thing is an interesting debate because if you look here, Reece James actually has the highest chances created. What that actually means is he's creating the final cross before a goal. Whereas I think Trent does a lot more than that, which is where it's really difficult to compare. I will take on Reece James and think he's probably right next to Trent for me as the 2 best right backs in the league. But I literally just said off camera there, I think Reece James doesn't excel in either box. I think he defends well, but he can get caught out at times. And he attacks well, but not to the sort of level of Trent. So then you kind of go, okay, if he's decent at both, is he better than someone who's brilliant at one, but not as good as the other?
I'm going to be so boring with my pick and pick Kyle Walker. Because ultimately a right back is a defender. You have to be able to defend.
All right, Gareth.
I know. Yeah. Come on, Gareth. But a fullback has to be able to defend. And I think it's great that Trent and Reece James can do all this fantastic stuff in the final third. But ultimately, defenders have to be able to defend. Kyle Walker, no one's beating him for pace. No one's beating him for strength. You don't often see balls getting pumped like flat foot races to the goal line at City and someone beating Kyle Walker. And I think he fits in so well to Pep Guardiola's system at City that he deserves to be talked about in this conversation. I can tell by the looks of disdain on both your faces that he shouldn't be in this conversation.
No, it's not that. I mean, I think we're just starting to see what we value in football and what you value in football.
And neither is right or wrong.
Well,
but one is
I'm wrong.
For us, it's a beautiful creative painting, and we've got the chess playing Trent Alexander-Arnold, like figuring it out and making things look magical.
I want pigskin football in the mud, like people booting each other. And I think Kyle Walker would be really good at that, so that's why I'm picking him.
I think, to be fair, he's been consistent, but he hasn't created a single big chance this season. 0 key passes, but again, comes to
just on that though. If you're playing for City and you're getting the ball at right back, you're not. It's
You're
not
never
dependent on
gonna.
yourself to create the big chances. You're giving the ball to De Bruyne.
Well, there is another player that is on this list, although I think these days he plays left back, but Joao Cancelo is that guy for City, which tells you can be both.
It's true.
Where you can be the technical fullback that creates chances, but also you can still be the one that knows to defend to some extent. What's really interesting about Cancelo is because he's so... Only word I can think of is sexy going forward. There's like the outside of the foot passes, everything he does is so like nice to watch.
Yeah.
You almost forget like
Silky.
Does he actually defend? Like when I think of that, I go, I actually haven't seen him get beaten in a foot race, or maybe I have. I just haven't paid any attention to it.
Well, the idea is that you're not making any of those last-ditch tackles, right? Because you've already done it and you've outthought your opponent.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's what
I'm
he's
going to
doing.
be dead boring again because I don't think this podcast is boring enough. But sometimes you sit and watch City and teams target Cancelo. It doesn't often work, but sometimes you look at it and think that's what they're trying to do. You never, ever watch City and think they're trying to target Kyle Walker. Ever.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think that's definitely a system thing, though.
Yeah, it could be.
So,
But if you're looking to try and beat City and identify a weakness, I don't think there are many managers in the world going, tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to absolutely hammer Kyle Walker.
tell you who did. Eddie Howe with St. Maximin, who turned Walker inside out. I felt bad for Walker that day because St. Maximin was just on it that day.
That was a mad day.
Yeah,
You
but
can't-
Yeah, sometimes you can't account for St. Maximin's brilliance.
No.
Somehow Diogo Dalot has made it into this list. I mean, it was out of favour not that long ago, and suddenly it looks like the right back United actually want and need.
Nearly 4 interceptions and tackles per 90.
That's good.
I was going to say when we were talking about Trent that obviously he's so fantastic on the ball. Defensively, it's very, very hard to teach defensive awareness, being in the right place at the right time. In fairness to Diogo Dalot, he looks like something's happened to him over the summer. There were question marks when Solskjaer was manager that they thought that Dalot was great going forward, but he was too much of a liability at the back. So they couldn't ever pick him. And they wanted to pick Haroon Wan-Bissaka because he was a lot more solid defensively. Something this season has triggered with Dalot, and he's a lot more sound defensively. You see the way that he's chasing back, the challenges he's made. He's not as productive as a Trent or a Reece James going forward, but in terms of a box-to-box fullback, is that even a phrase? It's probably... I've invented it.
You just
No,
made one.
exactly.
There you go.
Box-to-box fullback. He's there or thereabouts. He's showing that he could possibly be United's first choice right back for the next 10 years.
Wow. He also did score a couple of goals on international duty, so...
He looked dead surprised though.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Like really surprised.
Technically, he actually has a bit, though, going
He
forward.
has.
Like, he's not a bad footballer. I think it's quite the opposite of someone like Wan-Bissaka, who actually didn't look very comfortable going forward, so Dalot made sense. A man we've missed on this list is Kieran Trippier. He's one of these players where we've talked a lot about players being attractive to watch, players having pace. Trippier kind of like doesn't... I don't want to offend him in case he watches this. Doesn't do anything
Kieran.
unbelievably,
Enjoying it.
but he can do everything to a good standard. Good on set pieces. Gareth Southgate really likes him. Can play left, can play right. Is he in for a shout as potentially one of the best right backs in the league?
Ooh, more than good on set. I mean, Kieran Trippier, I can never stop seeing that free kick into the top corner. And, hang on, was that Euros or
That was Euros.
World Cup? I've
Euros against
lost my
Croatia,
track.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that I associate him instinctively with like some stunning free kicks, but maybe I've over exaggerated that in my mind. He's a workhorse, isn't he? Really,
It should
Kieran
definitely be in the
Trippier?
conversation. Definitely. And I think it says everything about him that he was able to go to Spain under Diego Simeone at Atletico Madrid and played every week and played in a very, very successful team. It'd be interesting to think, if we had more time, to go through that list of right backs and who you think could go and play in that Atletico Madrid team and excel. There aren't many.
Yeah, right.
Could Trent do it? Could Trent do it for Diego Simeone?
Yeah, he could. Of course he could.
Really?
Although, as long as you could put up with, apparently Simeone just calls you all hours of the day and night. So
If
as
he was
long
out
as
of
you've got a
position, he
strong...
would be getting hooked after about 10 minutes. Trent, you're
100%.
off. Kieran, get on there, show him how it's done.
Maybe Trent needs to move abroad so people can appreciate him a bit more. If he goes and
Maybe.
mixes it at Madrid, Real Madrid, we might go, can any of the rest of this list go to Real Madrid? In conclusion, I'm going to say my best right back in the league is Trent, despite arguing a case for Reece James. I'm guessing you're going Trent as well.
You just nicked mine. Yeah, mine's Trent.
We can agree. We can agree on
Alright, I
football
didn't
forecast, you
realise
know?
that was it.
Still Kyle, even despite the blasphemy about St. Maximin, still Kyle Walker, best in the league.
Absolutely love it. You guys let us know who your best right back is in the league. If you don't choose Trent, Kate will be very upset.
Thanks Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.